Welcome back, fellow mages, to The Grounded Mage, where we explore how myth and magic exist in everyday life. Today, we're diving into the grand cinematic tradition of killing off beloved characters and dragging them back with the glow up. From Gandalf to Jon Snow, Harry Potter to literally every superhero, except maybe Hawkeye. Resurrection is the narrative equivalent of a software update. But the question is, why does the storyline hit us so hard? And even better, how does it reflect the psychological transformation we're all trying to navigate in our own lives? Let's break this down psychologically, mythologically, with a few lighter moments to make it more fun. Let's get into it. Have you ever noticed that Hollywood treats death like sitcoms treat amnesia? Annoying, temporary, and usually solved by the next episode. Heroes die more often than houseplants, which is why I never attempt to buy any, and somehow they come back hydrated, enlightened, and emotionally stable. Honestly, I'm jealous. But there's a reason every culture, every fandom, every big franchise keeps killing their heroes and resurrecting them. And it's not laziness, it's psychology. Your psychology. So, today we explore why resurrection stories resonate in our souls and why sometimes the old version of us has to die before the real one can step into the light. From Gandalf falling into the abyss, to Harry Potter walking calmly into the forest, to Jon Snow absolutely refusing to stay dead when stabbed by his own coworkers, resurrection stories hit something primal in us. So, let's talk about why heroes always die and why they always come back stronger. Let's start with a truth that's been around for longer than Instagram wellness quotes. Transformation requires a symbolic death. Mythology shows us this constantly, but cinema doubles down on it. In myths, the hero's death isn't about dying. It's about letting go of an identity that can't survive the next chapter. Gandalf the Grey falls fighting the Balrog and returns as Gandalf the White. Wiser, stronger, upgraded like a patch note in Middle-earth. Gandalf the Grey couldn't win the war, but Gandalf the White could. Harry Potter walks into the forest to die and resurrects with clarity and emotional maturity that he never had before. Harry Potter, the confused teenager, couldn't face Voldemort. Harry, the chosen one who did enough trauma therapy, could absolutely annihilate the Dark Lord. Optimus Prime dies dramatically in Transformers the movie and in later franchise entries, only to return with deeper resolve and somehow even more inspirational speech cadence. Neo's first death in The Matrix is the moment he finally sees the system clearly and becomes fully himself. Psychology backs this up. Developmental theorists like, surprise, not Carl Jung. You thought I was going to say Carl Jung. No, this time it's Erik Erikson and James Marcia. They talk about identity crises. Moments where the old you genuinely has to fall apart for the real you to emerge. These aren't bad moments. They're necessary ruptures. In real life, it looks like the breakup that forces you to reclaim your identity, the job loss that pushes you toward your real calling, or the burnout that becomes your turning point instead of your defeat. What version of you is quietly asking to be released because it doesn't fit your next chapter? Let's dig a little deeper. Once the hero dies, they don't just resurrect immediately. No, they take a quick vacation to the Shadow Realm, the Afterlife, or Pocket Dimension with suspicious ambient lighting. This space actually has a name, the liminal space, the in-between. In mythology, it shows up as the underworld, the belly of the whale, the dream realm, the ancestral plane, the oversaturated CGI void Marvel uses when it's feeling emotional. We've seen it a million times in multiple universes and films. In Black Panther, T'Challa visits the ancestral plane, a literal liminal world, to confront the beliefs he inherited versus the truths he has to choose. In Batman: The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne dies, falls into the pit, and must relearn who he is without his mask. In Doctor Strange, His astral experiences after his body is injured function as a liminal stage where he rewires his entire worldview. In various Spider-Man movies, the with great power death moments, often Uncle Ben, thrust Peter into a liminal space of grief and responsibility. But let's widen this lens. It also shows up in Lord of the Rings. Frodo's departure isn't death, but it functions like a liminal afterlife. He's too changed to return to his old life, but he's not finished becoming whatever he will eventually be. The Undying Lands are a place between endings and beginnings, healing, recovery, release. A gentle liminal space for a wounded hero. And Avatar also has a version of this, the spirit world. Aang and Korra enter a dimension that isn't life, death, or dream, it's the in-between. Aang meets past avatars, faces fears, and regains clarity that he could never reach in the physical world. The spirit world is a liminal realm of identity reconstruction, a psychological chrysalis. Psychology says you and I actually need these in-between spaces. Liminal spaces are uncomfortable, disorienting zones where identity reforms. They are chrysalis moments, periods of uncertainty where you haven't arrived yet, but you're no longer where you were. And we hate these phases because they feel disorienting, but they are where the actual transformation happens. A study on post-traumatic growth found that people often emerge from difficult periods with greater appreciation, clarity, creativity, and resilience, not because of the pain itself, but because the experience forced reflection, reconstruction, and renewed purpose. Heroes don't grow while punching things. They grow in the quiet dark. Are you in a liminal phase right now? And have you been treating it like a failure instead of a transformation zone? Resurrection isn't just a return. It's an upgrade. Think of every hero reborn. They don't come back confused. They come back with clarity, confidence, a deeper sense of purpose, and usually a new outfit. Why? Because death, symbolic or narrative, wipes out the noise of the old identity. It strips away what's unnecessary. In self-psychology, it's called reconstitution of the self. When parts of the identity collapse, the psyche reorganizes around a new center, usually stronger, clearer, and more integrated. This is why people often say things like, I lost everything, but I found myself. And honestly, that's the heroic arc in one sentence. Think about T'Challa in Black Panther. When he returns from the ancestral plane, he comes back with conviction. Not his father's beliefs, not tradition's expectations, but his own. That's the essence of resurrection, the moment you finally choose yourself. Heroes don't return the same, they return distilled. And every famous character has moments like this. Gandalf the White came back more powerful, more centered, and more aligned. Jon Snow came back with greater humility, a deeper emotional grounding, and a stronger sense of a moral compass. Rey's symbolic death on Octu and visions of her past allow her to return with an identity that is self-chosen, not inherited. And Miles Morales, when he finally breaks free from the chair, that's his resurrection, his explosive arrival into his true identity. In the reconstitution of the self, old beliefs fall away, leaving a cleaner foundation. The resurrection is the part where people say, I feel more like myself than ever. The Harry that reveals himself to be alive at the Battle of Hogwarts is not the same Harry who walked into the forest. He was the Harry that needed to be there to finish the fight, the most real and best version of himself. So, keep in mind, when an old version of you dies, you're only going to emerge as an even better you. Every hero has a resurrection at some point, but you might have missed that there's always a breaking point before there's a breakthrough. Think about Iron Man in Avengers Endgame. He snaps the gauntlet, a literal sacrificial death that cements his transformation from selfish arms dealer to cosmic protector. Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender merges with past avatars and temporarily dies to his childlike self. Wanda Maximoff's emotional death moment is letting go of her constructed family, leading to a rebirth of identity. Other breaking points you might recognize are Neo choosing the red pill, Rey choosing her identity, and Spider-Man in like every third reboot. Psychologists call these positive disintegrations, the breakdown that makes space for growth, moments when the old worldview collapses. Dabrowski, the psychologist, believed that disintegration was essential for higher development. People don't ascend because they're comfortable. They ascend because their old life becomes too small. This is why the hero's death moment is often voluntary. The hero chooses to let go. And you know what? That choice is the resurrection. Is there something you're clinging to that your future self is ready to outgrow? Here's something we sometimes miss. Heroes don't resurrect for their own benefit. They resurrect because their new self is needed for the greater good. Look at Luke Skywalker. In The Last Jedi, his resurrection isn't physical, it's spiritual. His return as a projection helps save the resistance. Gandalf returns to turn the tide, Neo resurrects to liberate humanity, T'Challa returns to confront Killmonger and change Wakanda's entire worldview. In every resurrection story, the newly reborn hero returns with something vital: wisdom, clarity, power, compassion, boundaries, which are rare in fiction but essential for real life. Joseph Campbell called this the return with elixir phase. Psychology calls it integration, bringing your new insights into everyday life. When you evolve, the world around you changes because you engage differently. You show up differently. You love differently. You protect differently. That's why the new resurrected hero always changes the story. And that's true for you too. Now, not every comeback story is real. Some are costume changes pretending to be transformations. You know the ones. I'm fine. Narrator, they were not fine. New haircut, same existential crisis. I've totally moved on, says the person who has not moved 1 inch. A true resurrection is not about appearances. It's about alignment. So ask yourself, has my inner world actually shifted, or am I just putting fresh paint on the same walls? Some cinematic resurrections, pure plot device. Yes, I am looking at certain DC arcs. A real resurrection changes your choices. A false one changes your aesthetics. One is a rebirth, one is retail therapy. A real resurrection isn't just power or aesthetics. It's an identity shift. Think about Thor in Avengers Endgame. His entire arc is about learning the difference between real transformation, healing, and accountability, and a false transformation, pretending he's fine. The same goes for us. Are you actually reborn, or just rearranging your anxieties with better lighting? I know applying this to real life is easier said than done. So I'm just going to leave you with a few affirmations. You are allowed to reinvent yourself. You are allowed to outgrow versions of you that once kept you safe. You are allowed to change directions, beliefs, relationships, and identities when they no longer fit where you're going. Every hero you have ever loved has been required to do exactly that. Cinema shows us this again and again because our psyche craves the reminder. The old self must die so the true self can live. Your psychological resurrection arc might not come with dramatic music and glowing light beams, but it is a sacred shift, and you deserve to honor it. Today, I leave you with this question. If your story had a resurrection scene, what truth would you be carrying back into the world? If this episode sparked something for you, send it to someone who's in their own resurrection chapter. The friend who's rebuilding, the family member who's finding their voice again, or honestly, anyone who feels like they're stuck in the pre-glow up montage. And if you're on your own resurrection journey right now, you're not alone. Keep going. The world needs the version of you emerging on the other side. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube Mage rituals. And I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep growing, keep transforming, and remember, if you feel like the old version of you is dying, you'll come out of this experience with all the parts you need for your next chapter. Until next week, make it make magic.